Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast All-Star comparison. And basically, this is going to be kind of a different toned video. We've been comparing eras in a lot of these videos where we take 30 years on from the previous. So, of course, this is 1991 compared to 2021 players. So when we compare the eras, we look at the numbers of the guys that have, already finished their careers as opposed to the guys that still maybe have some time left. Although, we've had players up here like Aaron Donald and Gronkowski who have finished their careers in the last 3 or 4 years. So we do have their, complete, library of work. But their complete resume is up there for us to see. But a lot of players, like a Myles Garrett, like a, Jair Alexander or, Pat Mahomes, we don't know what their careers are going to entail. But the argument is always what era is better. Were the players in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s better than the players of today? Or are these players better because their diets are better, the game is more refined, positions are more defined? Who would be, would some of these great players from the 90s succeed now? Would some of these players from now succeed in the 90s, 30 years earlier? And the answer is yes to all of it. I guarantee you that if a player like Reggie White grew up in, was born in 1991, he'd be playing probably about his 11th season, 12th season, depending on when he came out of college, because he'd be 33 years old. And I believe that Reggie White would still have well over 140 to 150 sacks. He'd still be a dominant defensive lineman because he would benefit from all the knowledge that was there, which we're not time traveling. We're growing him up in this era to play football in this era. And it's the same if you take a guy like Pat Mahomes, take him back in time and take him to being born maybe in 1964, where by the time he's 33, it would have been 1997, and he probably would have been drafted in 1983, 84. He might have been in that class of 83 with Elway. He might have been 1 year after, which was the year after was not as good of a quarterback draft as the 83 draft. But Pat Mahomes would have grown up in that era, and he would have had that knowledge, and he would have had, but it's like, I still believe that his competitiveness, his fire, his talent, his ability to read defenses, it's like the passion that he has for the game would still translate, and he still would have been great in that era. So to me, it's like, it doesn't matter when these players played, they were going to be great. Their greatness is because of their drive. Their greatness is because of their athletic ability. When they grew up isn't going to change that they had athletic ability. It would have just been a different kind. Now, where the argument can be had is if you take Reggie White from his prime and put him 30 years into the future and you put him now, would he be dominant? You bet he would. It's like if you took Pat Mahomes right now and dropped him into football in the past, back into playing in 1991, would he have been great? Yes, because he's got a good arm. He's accurate. He reads defenses well. He can run a little bit. Yes, he would have been great. He would have been amazing back then as well. The argument isn't which era, which of these eras of players are better than the other players, because they're all great no matter, which era is better than another era, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's just how football has evolved. And it's like these players, if they were born, if the, players of now were born 30 years earlier, and 30 years earlier than they were and had to start their careers at a different time, they would have still been great. And it's the same with the players of today. If they were born 30 years later, would they still be great today? Absolutely, they would be. There is no doubt in my mind that a tight end like Gronkowski, if he had to play in the older era, he's not going to have as many catches probably, but he still would have been considered a great tight end the way Ozzie Newsome is considered a great tight end. Look at even Tony Gonzalez's numbers or Shannon Sharp's. If he would have grown up in that era, Gronk would have absolutely still killed it. He would have still killed it in the 70s or 80s. He would have been better than Keith Jackson. He probably still would have been. He's the best of his era now. He would have been the best of his era then because he was just big. He was strong. He was a good blocker. He was a good catcher. He would have been a freak no matter what. He was a freak when he was playing now. He would have been a freak then. So, and it's the same way with a guy like Lawrence Taylor. It's the same way with a guy like John Elway. It's the same with a guy like, Joe Burrow or somebody like that. Doesn't matter where you put them. They would have been great. Great players are great for a reason. If you have to take those players and put them in a different era, yes, maybe the game is a little bit more physical that they'd have to get used to if you took them back in time, but great players would still find a way to be great. It's like, I don't believe that the greatest players shy away from, a little bit more contact. They would just, figure it out like all great players do. So for me, the idea of, we pick which era we would rather have, it's just not the era, it's the players. These are the players I would rather have because no matter when I get them, they would be great no matter what. And that's All-Star for now.